Hey, I'm back. Yeah, you thought you were rid of me for the day? Sorry, I'm back. I'm Brent Leary. Spending another few good minutes because I did just spend actually it's great minutes earlier today. Talking a little bit about Zoho for startups with their head of global startups, Kupu, and now I got another guest, somebody you're probably familiar with because you've seen him here before. But before I bring him on to talk about the news of the day that he has, I'm this is a show of sorts, and I always kid people. I said, look, it's not a webinar, it's not a session, it's not a call, it's a show. So I got to start doing things that are show like. You know what show like? Promos. Guess what? We have a promo for tomorrow's CRM players. How about that? That was kind of smooth. I even see my guests in the green room, giving me a little head nod there. So I think that was good. It was smooth. So tomorrow, there's a lot of news going on this week. So tomorrow for CRM players, me and the venerable Paul Greenberg will be hosting for the first time. I'm not even going to try to say his last name because I don't know what it is yet. I'm just going to say Mike. But by tomorrow's show, I will know how to say Mike's last name. But his name is Mike, and he's the SVP of product management of Genesis. Genesis just announced an acquisition, and we are going to talk to him about that tomorrow on CRM Players. Now, I mentioned I was on earlier today, and I call this the a few good minutes doubleheader. So the first, how baseball they do one like in the afternoon, and they take some time off, then they come back and they do like the nightcap, because you got to have a nightcap when you have a day cap, I guess. So anyway, the first half was with Kupu from Zoho. She was great. She was the first time I got a chance to talk to her. Really great conversation. Now the bottom half of the doubleheader, actually, it's not even a doubleheader because it's kind of a triple header because even after this, we have the players happy hour. We do every Wednesdays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, and well, actually, Paul calls it some crazy long name beyond what I just like to say happy hour. It's something about inevitable or permanently expanding or something like that. But it's a happy hour, 3:30s Eastern, for every Wednesday. Join us. There's a link on my LinkedIn page. You can join us. But the bottom half of the doubleheader. See, I'm even confusing myself because I go with the triple header to double header, back to the double header thing. Somebody that has been with me on numerous occasions, either on A Few Good Minutes or on the CRM Players, Don Schuerman. And I always have to check to make sure what Don's title is because it seems like it's also infinitely expanding. But he is the CTO and VP of Marketing and Technology Strategy for Pega. And I thought maybe he would be also adding head coach for the Patriots or something like that. But Don, thank you for joining me.
It is good to be here. Nice to see you, Brent.
It would be helpful if I remove the picture. All right, so it's always a pleasure to see you. I was thinking I've had the opportunity to have you on a number of times, and I started thinking, do I have to do something like what Saturday Night Live does when they have hosts on that reach a certain milestone in terms of numbers, something like that?
Like a special jacket or like a special hoodie.
Well, see, you've got a special hoodie on already, though.
I do. Like you both. I think both of us have a gray hoodie, which is at least half of the qualifications to coach the Patriots.
Ooh, so nice. Yeah. Yeah, but we also have smiles on our faces, so that's kind of rules you out right now. But last time we talked, you look like this.
That's right. That's right.
I was kind of thinking, will he come with the, we're coming up on Valentine's Day. Will he come with the cherub look? Or I'm kind of glad you didn't.
We're kind of that was a very special kind of Halloween, conversation. We're sort of in between holidays right now. So.
That's true, but we're not in between news because you guys just announced some big news. I'm going to turn the floor over to you to talk about it, and I call you my buddy for this segment.
Excellent. So we announced a new Gen AI capability called Pega Gen AI Knowledge Buddy, and this is a part of the Gen AI family that we've been started introducing sort of last year. But I'm really excited about this one personally because I've been using it inside of Pega over the past couple of months, and it's really powerful. So what Knowledge Buddy does is it actually points at an existing content repository or knowledge repository, so inside your business, and it indexes all of that content for Gen AI so that you can ask it questions. You can even ask it to write emails based on your content. And the cool thing about it is it doesn't base it on some random fact somewhere off in the internet that you don't know where it got it from. It only answers based on information that's in your content repository. And it can even give you attributions. It can give you links. It can say, I found this answer here and I found this here, so that you actually can trust it. So we've been using it, for example, to help Pega developers find answers by going across all of our documentation set. Our internal sales teams have been using it to find answers in our sales documentation and our sales tools. So we're really excited about it. We think it's a pretty powerful way to use generative AI to make content and knowledge more readily available to, say, customer service agents or even end customers. But we've also done it, I think, in a way that's really secure for the enterprise. So it's got audit controls and security guidance, and every interaction is tracked. So you know exactly how it's answering to questions and when it's not finding answers in your content. So I think it's a pretty powerful tool and something we're pretty excited about.
You know, what I like about it is I was talking to, I forget somebody, I was talking to somebody either earlier this year or at the end of last year. But guess what? We were talking about Gen AI. How about that?
Really?
I know
Surprise. Yeah. On a tech show, Paul?
it's a shock.
Yeah.
It's a shock. So yeah, but one of the things that we kind of stumbled on is this idea of, we had always had these things that built silos. Like we use these applications in silos, and we kind of did our jobs in silos, and even the data that the organization accumulated, there was a power struggle, and so everybody wanted to kind of mine their tube. So we've always worked in silos, and then we just stumbled upon, wouldn't it be nice if Gen AI did not create more silos, but it actually broke down the silos that we already face? And so when I hear you talking about this in terms of, the enterprise's data, and Gen AI, everybody's kind of focused on the external. How do we bring in all the public stuff, which is great. I'm not saying it's not. But what I'm hearing about this is it actually helps with an age-old enterprise issue. With there's lots of data in the enterprise. Absolutely nobody except the folks who are directly responsible for it know exactly what it is, where it is, how to get to it. And it sounds like this is one of those things that actually helps with that.
It definitely does. Like, imagine, for example, if you're a contact center agent, right? And working in, say, a bank or a healthcare organization, where you sometimes have to answer questions about things that maybe have some pretty technical or regulatory, very specific financial products or healthcare products, and a lot of that lives in a document somewhere in the business. And historically, we've asked people to either know it or to try to search through knowledge systems until they can find exactly the right piece of content. Now, you certainly don't want that agent just going out to ChatGPT and asking it, because who knows what ChatGPT is going to make up, and who knows where ChatGPT is getting its information. But if you could ask Gen AI in a way that it's only going to answer based on what is inside your corporation's knowledge and your corporation's documentation, well, now, as you say, you've actually solved a real problem for the business with Gen AI, but you've done it in a way that is safe, that can be trusted, that you ensure you're getting the right answers. We actually prevent hallucinations. One of the cool things I love about the tool that we built for our Pega documentation is I can ask it something very specific about how to build a workflow in Pega, and it'll give me a step-by-step answer. And I can actually say, give me the answer as a series of bulleted steps, and it'll do it like that. And then it'll actually link to the documents it took those answers from. If I ask it, give me a great recipe for a burrito, right? It'll actually tell me I don't know.
Instead of making something up.
Not because Gen AI doesn't know how to make a burrito. You can ask
Right.
ChatGPT for burrito recipes, for a while, but because there's nothing about how to make a burrito in Pega's documentation. So it explicitly knows that it can only tell me things that it can point to in Pega's documentation. I think that's what's really powerful. And I think that's one of the ways we now start bringing this to the enterprise in a way that the enterprise can really use.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it sounds like the data is safeguarded from the external, world and the other external data sources. So anything is like what's in the enterprise stays in the enterprise. That's what it sounds like.
That's right. We're actually, one of the other cool things that's in here, and I'm not going to get too into the tech, but you're actually not retraining the Gen AI models. Like, we're not actually teaching Gen AI to know your knowledge content. We're doing a form of prompt engineering that happens to be called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. If you want to go geek out on it, and I'm sure there's some people who could totally geek out with me on sort of RAG architectures. But we're using this retrieval augmented generation, or RAG architecture, to do this, so that you don't have to actually retrain a model. You're just using the model not as a knowledge source. You're using OpenAI purely as a synthesis engine. The knowledge only comes from your system. It is, as that comment says, like a walled garden for your enterprise knowledge.
Yeah, that's our buddy Alan Berkson. So last year all everybody was talking about was Gen AI at a high level. It was like,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, we, what it is, we've got it. Don't worry, we got you covered. Towards the end of the year, it definitely, more detail, more meat, more real world stuff, more real use cases, not just, paint a picture of a blue acorn and, with 8 angles or anything like that.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about now, retrieval augmented generation. Now that was a term that I heard, mid to end year. Maybe you could just talk a little bit more about that and Pega's overall approach to that.
Yeah. So retrieval augmented generation is an approach to solve what is a fundamental gap, I think, when you try to use Gen AI at the enterprise level, right? And they're with content, right? And there are two big gaps that we have, right? If you've tried to ask just Chat GPT questions, you'll know three things about it, frankly. One is sometimes it makes stuff up.
Well, isn't that kind of what it's generative, right?
Right, it's generative, but sometimes it makes stuff up. Like, it hallucinates. Like, I asked once a question about like who the board of directors of Pega were, and it actually gave me names very confidently of like 3 people who I've never heard of, right? So the other problem that you have with it is it can't tell you where it got its answers from. Right? Which is pretty important if you're trying to, answer a customer question or operate, process a claim correctly.
Right.
And the third thing is its information is limited to like whenever the model was last trained, which in the case of GPT 3.5 is 2021. In the case of, GPT-4 is towards the end of 2022. But that's not up to date enough for how most enterprises are. And you can't afford to retrain the model every time you wrote a new piece of content.
Right.
So what retrieval augmented generation does is it takes a different approach. It doesn't use Gen AI as a knowledge engine. It uses it as a language synthesis engine. So what you do is we take with Knowledge Buddy your enterprise content. So say you point us at your content database you have, or say you have a website of help documents. You point it Knowledge Buddy at that. It takes that content and it indexes it into a format called a vector database. So think of this as a database that has little chunks of content where it understands the semantic relationships between things. So going back to our prior conversation, it would understand that patriots and football are words that are related even though there's nothing in the dictionary that would tell you those words would be connected.
Nothing
Right?
in my
In
heart.
fact, there's nothing in the previous Patriots season that would tell you those words are connected. But it builds that vector store of information. And then when you ask it a question, the first thing it does is it goes to that vector database and it pulls all of the relevant chunks of content that might contain an answer to that question. And then it writes a prompt to GPT where it says, here's my question. I want you to answer it solely based on the content I'm giving you below. And if you can't find an answer in that content, you say, I don't know. If you don't understand what I'm asking based on this content, you say, I don't know. And I think that approach then leads you to get, it can, one, answer based on whatever content you have, and it doesn't hallucinate, because if it can't find an answer, it doesn't know. It can always tell you how it got the answer, because you know the list of content that you gave it. So you could actually point it back to the source. Where did the question come from? And if you need to update your content, you just put new information in the vector database. You don't need to retrain the model. So you can always keep the information up to date. So we've basically built that infrastructure for you. And then we've put in all these enterprise controls so you can update content, audit who's using it, create security controls for who can see what kinds of information. So we've basically taken a RAG architecture and built it at enterprise scale, because those are the kinds of things that our customers really need.
So who is actually, so the system is creating the prompts based on the data that is attached with or integrated in, from all the different applications that are the internal organizational applications. So it's got that data. Once it kind of connects the dots with all the data, this thing could then potentially create prompts based on, whatever the need is of the business user, and or is the business user able to create their own prompts? How does that work?
Yeah, the business user doesn't need to worry about the prompt. The business user just asks the question. The business user just says, hey, how do I process this type of claim in the state of Massachusetts? Or, what do I need to do to move my phone line from one account to another? They just ask the question. And then we handle creating the prompt on their behalf. So the great thing about this is the user just simply interacts with this like they're asking somebody a simple question. And we manage getting them the right answer and creating the right, most optimized and most secure prompt to GPT in order to deliver it.
So I noticed I'm checking out the press release, and you give the ability for folks to create their own kind of customized buddies. But before we get to that, what are some of the ways that you see folks right out of the box using this?
Yeah, so I think, like, you're going to see, for example, customer service buddies, right? So if I'm a customer service agent, right? Customer service agents are constantly dealing with knowledge problems and constantly trying to grab and go into knowledge repositories. So a lot of the clients that we're talking about sort of as potential lighthouse customers of this are looking at this through the lens of, how do we use this in our customer service environment so that our customer service agents can quickly get the answers to questions when they're on the phone with their customers. And then the next flip from that is, well, then how do I take that and bring it to self-service? Because if I can get answers from my customer service agents and they don't have to search through content, why don't I let my customers ask those same kind of questions without having to search through a bunch of content on my website? So I think this idea of sort of self-service buddies that actually get the answers for customers directly in real time is going to be interesting. But I think you then also could see buddies in different areas. So we work with a lot of customers in the claims processing space. Well, imagine a claims buddy that helps people who have to deal with really complicated healthcare or insurance claims figure out how to process them by looking at the pretty thick regulatory manuals that describe how that work needs to get done. Or imagine I'm responsible for doing processing potential fraud or risk situations at a bank. And again, there are documents upon documents that describe how different types of fraud interactions need to be processed. Well, instead of having to scan through all that documentation, I just asked my fraud buddy, how do you handle this kind of situation? And it could give me back specifically the instructions. So I think you can start applying this across different domains inside the organization.
I'm thinking I'm kind of stuck on this silo thing, because we've lived in the age of silos forever, and it's always difficult to maneuver, to understand what's all available, and then how to get to it, how to use it, and how to use it in real time in a way that's going to be meaningful at the moment of need.
Yep.
So I'm looking at this, and you can create, it looks like you can create custom buddies.
Yep.
But I'm guessing that's strictly for these buddies are strictly to be used for this organization. There's not going to be, or is there going to be, like, I want to say, like a buddy marketplace where a company creates their buddies. Can they be used, as we kind of go with these apps in a marketplace? Can a company create their own buddies and then kind of make them available if somebody else wants to use it?
Well, we've built the buddies with a pretty powerful API architecture so that, your buddy could become an API that then sits and is aggregated behind something else. Right. I think, but the one thing I do want to be, pretty clear about is, there's some stuff, right? GPT now has an app store, right? So
Right.
you can build some of your own little personal tools with GPT. And I've played with those. I think they're really great. I think for some personal use cases, they're really worthwhile. But they're not built to scale for the enterprise. Like we've built this buddy for the needs of a pretty sophisticated enterprise that not only has to think about content, has to think about content that lives in multiple locations and multiple silos, and also has to think about all the kinds of things that enterprises deal with around, like, well, boy, certain users are allowed to access certain types of content depending on their role or depending on their security rights. And I actually have to audit every time that somebody looks at something. So it's got built into it all of those kinds of controls that the enterprise needs so that you can actually deploy this in real life at scale at the enterprise.
So here's one of the biggest questions of all. And Don, this is going to take a little while maybe to explain, but why Buddy? Everybody's calling it Copilot. Why are you guys going the other way, man?
Why are we going with Buddy? Well, one of the things I would say about Pega is historically we are not a company that likes to sound like everybody else. So, so I think that's there. I think there is something about Buddy that makes it approachable, right? And I think there's a degree to which there's a need sometimes to make people feel comfortable with Gen AI. Comfortable both in the sense of, hey, this isn't going to take my job. This is just going to help me do my job better and make it easier and more pleasant. I also think get comfortable with Gen AI in the sense that, like, no, it can be safe. It can be trusted at the enterprise level. So I think that, that the word buddy works for that way. To be quite honest, the word buddy kind of was our engineering team came up with it when they first built a prototype of this. And they called it the self-study buddy because it was designed to sort of help people study for certification exams. And I think they called it self-study buddy because there was a little rhyme, but the word buddy just kind of stuck. And, as we talked to clients about it and we talked to other folks about it, everybody was sort of like, well, I would like a buddy. Who doesn't want a buddy? So that's kind of where we ended up.
You know who could use a buddy? Bill Belichick. He looks like he could have used a buddy.
He looks like he could definitely have used a buddy.
Awesome. So, hey, Don, where can people learn more about this?
So as with most things, they can check it out on Pega.com. So if you go to Pega.com, you can learn more about the buddy. You can sign up if you're interested in requesting a demo. You can check it out there. Also, if you want to check out my LinkedIn feed, which is Don Schuerman, just under that name, you can check me out there, and I've been posting some examples of the buddy there as well. You can also there's also a self-study buddy that's available at buddy.pegaenablement.com, where you can actually play with one of these yourself. So
nice. Is there a nutty buddy?
Well, maybe one of our clients will build a nutty buddy. Like it would have to be a buddy. It would have to be a buddy that, like, answers questions about almonds and cashews.
Ooh,
okay. Should be a pretty good buddy.
All right, okay. Before I let you go, Pega World, any sneak peeks, any hints for that?
So yeah, I mean, we're starting to put together some of our plans for Pega World, which is coming up in June in Las Vegas. Obviously, Buddy is going to be something that we're showcasing.
Right.
And we'll probably actually have pretty soon a Buddy available for people to actually learn more about PegaWorld and ask questions about the 80 different client sessions that we recently announced. So if you go to pegaworld.com, there are some incredible organizations that are going to be talking about how they've improved their customer service workflows or their customer experience, how they've applied, AI decisioning and workflow automation at enterprise scale to drive really what I would consider most business transforming outcomes, things that have pretty dramatically changed their business. So I think, go check out pegaworld.com to see some of the incredible customer sessions that we just announced, and watch that space as we start announcing some of the more previews from a technology side of what we're going to be showing.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And I always look forward to Pega World in Vegas. It's always fun. Are you going to be doing an MC? You kind of handed off the MCing duties last year, didn't you?
I handed off the emceeing duties last year to my friends Joe and Matt, who I thought did a just spectacular
Oh
job.
yeah, absolutely.
So I'm definitely sure that I will be around there and around Pega World to both speak, but also to get to hang out and spend some time listening to our clients.
Awesome. And can you get one of those Pega hoodies at Pega World?
Yeah,
Maybe
the specialized Pega hoodie. Yeah,
they look good.
this look good, right? If I cut the sleeves off of this, what do you think? If I cut the sleeves off, right, just like hacked them off with a pair of scissors, I'm ready to stand on the sidelines and scowl.
Yeah, you gotta really work on the scowling part there,
Yeah.
Don. You're not much of a scowler.
I'm not a natural scowler. It's not my default face.
Oh man, but thanks again for doing this. This is great, and I definitely look forward to learning more about Buddy and leading up to Pega World. It's always a great event.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Brent. It's always fun to chat.
All right, take care, and everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow. CRM Players, the Venerable Paul Greenberg. He's got to do Stump the Godfather. I make him do it. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.